Grumpig right now, 962 in the rankings. Shadow's 982. You know how crazy it is to see it go from the high 900s in rankings to 7th overall on the non-shadow and 39 on the shadow? That's actually insane. That is like the biggest glow up I've ever seen previous season to next season. There's going to be a lot that goes into this. We're just going to call this the Might and Mastery season because that's what Niantic calls it. And this tier list is first and foremost going to be just focused on Great League. I will make one for Ultra League and maybe Master League. I don't know. Master League is not as many people play it, but Ultra League things definitely get shook up quite a bit. So that could be an interesting one. And I know a lot more people play Ultra League than Master League. And then the other key thing to note is that this is a pre-patch tier list. What that means is that this is based on the information we know, but doesn't necessarily mean that things won't be subject to change, because we had to kind of predict like some of the energy values, because Niantic doesn't ever disclose energy values. They only disclose like if it costs more or less, but they'll disclose the damage values. So some of the damage values, if it's just pure damage, are accurate, but essentially if they don't disclose all the energy values, none of the rankings are fully accurate, because even let's say if they disclose all the damage values for foul play, for example, which, I mean, they change the energy, but I'm just giving you a random example, right? I'm not saying this is what happened. Let's say if they say foul play got buffed by 5 damage. Yes, then we could calculate how that would affect the rankings. But the problem is the rankings also take into account of all the energy values. So even if foul play's energy value didn't change, if they change their energy values to body slam, that could potentially change where Sableye falls in the meta on the rankings, because Gastrodon might be higher or lower than it, right? But that really depends on the energy value of Body Slam that they change. A few things to note. We're just going to talk about the actual changes to any moves, and then we'll talk about the effective Pokemon, as well as the current meta Pokemon. I didn't put every single Pokemon on here, because something like Greninja, for example, didn't get changed. But it's like kind of meta, like fringe meta at best in Great League. So I will still rank it, because we'll just see how it falls, right? Azumarill didn't get touched at all, which, you know, some people probably wish that it got nerfed, but it didn't. Again, didn't get buffed, didn't get nerfed. But I'm sure you're curious to see how I would place it in the tier list compared to something like a Grumpig that did get buffed. So attack changes. Let's go there. Oh yeah, Claydol is in here, and Claydol actually, yo, that thing's been hot garbage for a while, but it's actually making its way downtown, if you know what I'm saying. All right, so a few attack changes. Psyshock energy cost is decreased. Again, we don't know what these energy values are, so until the new season starts, we won't have a full good idea, but we can estimate. And by we, I mean smarter people than me, like PvPoke, who has already created a great rankings preview for next season. So I'm not estimating these values myself because I have no idea, but other people are, and usually they're like fairly on point, but once in a while we're surprised by some of the changes. Like I think Steel Wing, when they buffed Steel Wing for Skarmory, was like a huge one. People didn't expect Skarmory to be that good until the actual energy values came out. They, you know, people were like, there's no way they'll make it this good, and they did. Dazzling Gleam, it is losing 20 damage, but the energy cost is decreased. This might not be a bad thing, right? Because Dazzling Gleam has already been like a not very efficient move compared to other fairy moves. But it's hard to say if it's a bad thing or good thing. My personal prediction is that this is a slight buff to Dazzling Gleam, because it's already not a great move. People aren't using it, right? It does, I think, the same exact damage as Moonblast. And Altari learns both, for example. But it costs more energy. This is speaking right now. It costs more energy, and it doesn't have a chance to debuff your opponent's attack. Whereas Moonblast costs less energy and has a chance to debuff your opponent's attack, and it does the same damage. So when it comes to charge attack fairy moves, Dazzling Gleam just makes no sense in my opinion, right? Like in my opinion, there shouldn't be the same kind of move of the same type, and it's just a straight downgrade across the board. It's more costly. It doesn't have any debuff buff chances, and it just stays even on damage. It makes no sense to me. So my guess is that they're probably not be able to make this any worse than it is. I mean, it's possible they could, but I think this is going to be a slight buff. Aqua Jet is getting a sizable buff, actually, from 45 damage to 70 damage. That's actually kind of nuts. That's pretty nuts. That's almost double his damage. And his energy cost is getting decreased. Dynamic Punch, energy cost is decreased, so that's definitely a buff. For sure, I'm just like Aqua Jet is a buff. Sludge increased by 20 damage, so we know just no energy changes, so that is a straight buff. Hex gets 1 extra damage, And its energy generation increases, so that's also a straight buff. We don't know by how much energy, but it is increasing. Acrobatics, energy cost is decreasing, so that's definitely a straight buff as well. Air Cutter goes down 15 damage, which I don't even know how, like, I haven't even really seen anything use Air Cutter in general, so I don't even know. Maybe on day 1 GBL you see it once in a while. Energy cost is decrease, chance to increase the user's attack by 1 stage. We don't know the percentage chance, we don't know the energy, but my guess is this would be kind of a buff. Kind of like Dazzling Gleam, my rationale is that it's not relevant right now, so like why would they nerf it? If anything, it's going to be a buff, maybe a big one, but my guess is maybe a small one to make it more useful. Rock Tomb is gaining 10 damage, energy cost is decreasing, and you're guaranteed to lower the opposing Pokemon's attack by 1 stage. That last part has already been set like that, but I think just re-emphasizing that hasn't changed. But this is a straight up buff for Rock Tomb for sure, which is going to be interesting. Rollouts is getting nerfed. It's doing 1 less damage. Now, for those that hate rollout users, then you can rejoice. Nightshade is decreasing in 10 damage. This is probably more so, this is definitely a targeted nerf to Galarian Corsola, because not much else really learns Nightshade that's relevant. Foul Play is losing 10 damage, but the energy cost is decreased. My guess is that this is either, this is going to be a buff, but it's possible it's a side grade, right? Let's say it's like same energy efficiency. In my opinion, that's still a buff. Why? Because anytime a move is faster to pace to, it's always better, right? Like, yeah, certain moves hit really hard, right? For example, Draco Meteor. Fantastic move for damage energy efficiency, but it takes forever to get to. So it's just like, it's like way less reliable than a Dragon Claw, for example. That's less energy efficient, but it's just more reliable, more spammy, right? Discharge goes down in damage by 10 damage, and energy cost is decreased. This might also be a side grade situation like Foul Play. What this means is that anyone that's using Discharge is probably going to pace to it much faster. It's going to be spammier, and it's probably going to have a lot more dynamic play to it, and it's probably just going to be better in general for PvP. So Piloswine and Mamoswine gets Icicle Sphere. So I have both of them on my list here. This is Great League, right? Let's keep that in mind. This is open Great League, not like exclusive cups like Holiday Cup or something like that. I don't think this is actually really good. Mamoswine as well, I don't love. I think it's actually even worse than Piloswine, so I'll put it at hot garbage. It's just way more frail. The thing is, you have Dugong ready, and Dugong ready has ice ground coverage, and they're both, all three of them are weak to fighting, but Dugong's way bulkier, and it just has a deep guaranteed debuff. Yeah, Icicle Sphere is nice and stuff, but the problem is, Walrein already had Icicle Sphere Powder Snow. It already had a ground move as coverage. If it's not that reliable, Walrein isn't, then what would make these two reliable, right? Even with Icicle Sphere. Togetic, Togekiss, Reuniclus? I don't know how to pronounce this thing. Reuniclus. I don't know. Bruxish, Venomoth. And Bruxish, sorry. So Togetic, Togekiss, Reuniclus, and Bruxish all get Psyshock. Psyshock did get his energy cost decreased. We don't know by how much. Obviously, it's going to be a buff. I actually think Togetic could be pretty interesting. Obviously, these are predictions, so like the new season rankings has Togetic at pretty high, right? It's actually ranked 18th overall. Psyshock, Fairy Wind, Dazzle Gleam. And Dazzle Gleam is also getting a slight buff. We don't know by how much. So Togetic is actually kind of a mystery because both of his moves that got changed, we don't know exactly how much it got changed by, but they both seem like buffs to me. It'll be meta for sure. I don't know if it'll be top meta, but I think it'll be meta. I don't think the predictions are that off. I don't think 18 is that wild replacement. Togekiss, a little bit less reliable, I think, but it does have charm. So I think I'll put it here for now. It's not great. It's really not great. It doesn't have the same typing. I probably put it at really bottom fringe meta. Like, I'm almost tempted to put it at bad. I don't think it's even bad. It's just that there's better fairies. There's better fairies than the better flyers. So that's probably why you'll never see it. Even if it's not bad, it's just not good enough compared to the other options. Reuniclus? I don't know how to pronounce this thing. Yeah, I think it's just going to be bad. I think it's worse than Piloswine. That's just my take on it. Bruxish is not good. It's definitely bad. I think obviously in like Love Cup or some specific cup it could be good, but in just regular cups, nah. Venomoth, Lapras, and Grumpig are all learning Sideways. Sideways is already a pretty good move. And the fact that all three of these are getting it is going to be pretty interesting. Let's start with Venomoth. I don't think Venomoth's going to be that relevant just because, yeah, I mean, it's just going to be like more of a fringe pick in general. Limited metas for sure, but Open Great League, no shot. Lapras, this is going to be an interesting one. Let's just do a comparison of Lapras right now. Lapras currently is 242 in the rankings, non-Shadow. Shadow's 345. Lapras in the new season prediction is ranked 3. That's crazy. It's ranked 3 with Sparkling Aria, which we have the damage values for, and Ice Beam, which we have damage values for. So Lapras, yes, the other Pokemon, it's unknown how much they're getting buffed by. This Lapras ranking is pretty true, I think, to it's going to be its end ranking after the patch. Yeah, other things can push it around a little bit, but we know all the damage values and energy generation values on all 3 of these moves. So I think it's going to be pretty busted. I mean, especially if this thing has like Skull Bash, it definitely beats Azumarill. I don't know. There might be a shot it beats Azumarill without it, just because sideway damage, but I'm actually not even sure. But Lapras, definitely could be interesting. I mean, key wins it picks up. It beats Drapion, Shao Drapion, Diggersby, Clodsire, Frowlget, Shao Frowlget, and Azumarill. With the Ice Beam Sparkling Aria moveset, actually, which is kind of crazy. Let me see how does it do that. Wow, it wins all even shields with just Psywave and Sparkling Aria. That's kind of crazy. Grumpig. This is a wild one too. I didn't think it would be this good, and we're talking about just Great League and Ultra League. It looks even nuttier. Grumpig right now, 962 in the rankings. Shadow's 982. You know how crazy it is to see it go from the high 900s in rankings to 7th overall on the non-Shadow and 39 on the Shadow? That's actually insane. That is like the biggest glow up I've ever seen previous season to next season. I don't think I've ever seen anything become that relevant like instantly. Had the glow up of the freaking century. Let's put it right here for now. Furret and Lanoon both get Swift. These are okay. So it's not the best move, right? It gives a slight bait move, but like, what are you going to bait with? Swift just to land a Hyper Beam? Like just run a bunch of stab, neutral to resisted normal damage. It's not good. Lanoon, similar situation. I think Lanoon at least has better coverage, but it's not great either. Put it here for now. Yeah, I mean, this again, Lanoon's, the good thing about Lanoon is you have Thunder and Grass Knot, I think. One of the grass moves. Energy Ball? I don't know. Anyway, you have really good coverage, right? When you add on Swift to it, it loses some of the coverage. If you get 3 charge moves, maybe a different story. Trampa also gets Swift, and Trampa is just, it has interesting typing, but it's not it. We'll put this in bad tier as well. Maybe here. It has like superior typing to Furret, I guess. Dusknoir gets Dynamic Punch as well. That's going to be interesting too, because they did buff Hex, but I think you're probably going to run Astonish anyway. I don't think it's going to be really relevant. There's a lot of Dark types in this upcoming meta too. But Dusknoir, especially in Great League, ugh, not the best. Sableye gets Dazzling Gleam, which is interesting. Gives it some coverage. I already know, because Shadow Bennett has, or Bennett in general has Dazzling Gleam, and I remember I've hit like an Umbreon with it. It didn't do as much as you would think it would. Like, and the problem is, like, it doesn't put it in a Shadow Call range, so even if you land it on a Dark type, it's like, if it's like a bulky Dark type, like Umbreon Mana Buzz, you can't really Shadow Call it down. I don't think the Dazzling Gleam is going to change much, but they did, like I said, probably buff Foul Play, and that's what I think makes Sableye more relevant. I'm going to put it here for now. I don't know if it makes it to the S tier, because there's just still a lot of other Dark types, and Azumarill is, like, not going anywhere, so there's that. Rabombi, Fast Attack Charm. I mean, this is, like, definitely a Little Cup thing, so we're going to put it Hot Garbage. It's not really deserved of Hot Garbage, just because I don't think it was meant for Great League. Blastoise gets Rollout. So does Weezing, Wailmer, and Wailord. Alright, one of these things are good. The other 3, I don't know. But this is going to be an interesting one. It gives us some way to, like, kind of hit back a little bit. And the upcoming season is 47. Which is like, it's okay. But Rollout did get a nerf, too. It beats Azumarill with Skull Bash, but it was kind of a good matchup anyway to begin with there. You could beat Diggersby, but, I mean, that's about it. It's like a Beeproll, I think, right? So, if you look at Beeproll, it's now gone down to 275 for the Shadow and 342 for the non-Shadow. It's got the same coverage. It's got Water and Normal and Rock Fast Attack. It's a better Beeproll because Hydrocan is just much better and Blast is just a lot more bulky. And it doesn't have the weakness to fighting. So there's that. I mean, normal typing is nice too, but being weak to fighting is not great. I do think it's going to be interesting. I don't know if it's going to be really good. I think it could be like a meta pick though. A good like alternative to like for Alligator, for example. Weezing, nah. Yeah, I'll put it there. It's not good. And then we got Whalmer, Whalelord. I know my podcast co-host and fellow content creator PvP Steve would say this makes Whalelord really good, but I think because of that, I'm going to put it even worse. I'm going to throw it in the very end. I'll throw Whalelord above this, though. One other Pokemon that got rollout is Glalie. Again, not really great. Put it here for now. It has interesting coverage, but there's just better ice types. Credilli gets Rock Tomb. That's an interesting one as well. I don't think it actually becomes super meta relevant. It's not that it's like bad. It's just that they're just better. There's just better grass types. It's better grass types, and yeah. And this one's just weak to fighting, which is not great. You know what? I will give it the benefit of the doubt. I'll make it better than Togekiss. Oh, actually, you know what? I might have overlooked this one. All right, so this current season is 218, right? Not the best. But the Rock Tomb buff is pretty interesting, and it moves it all the way to 29th overall. Beats Diggersby, obviously. Beats Mandibuzz. Beating Mandibuzz consistently is actually pretty interesting, as for a grass type, too. It beats Azumarill, obviously. It beats Lapras. Kind of barely. It barely beats Feraligatr, but does beat Chow Feraligatr, too. Loses a Primate, Annihilate. Clodsire is actually not that hard of a loss, and it's actually not that hard of a loss even to Superior, which I thought would be a lot worse for it. So, okay, you know what? Respectable. Really respectable. You're just worried about fighters. That's it. Everything else is fine. I mean, they did buff Dynamic Punch, but everything else is fine. Like, you have great coverage. Yeah, it's very safe. Bombirdier gets Rock Tomb. This is in Great League. Nah, it's like a worse Mandibuzz. It's like a worse Galarian Moltres, actually. Swampert gets Sludge. It's interesting. I don't think it's enough to make it meta again, because I think you can make it work. I just think that you're kind of playing hard mode to a degree. Swallow also gets Sludge, which Swallow actually has a pretty crazy stat product, but I don't know. I feel like it doesn't really cover a ton. Like, it just had Sludge Bomb before. Sludge Bomb was not that terrible of a move. So like, it just goes from one poison move to another. And the fact that you barely saw Swallow is probably a good indicator of why it's probably not relevant. For example, Lapras, we already know all the moves and their damage and energy values, and it's number 3. What's Swampert waiting for? Like, none of the energy changes that haven't been released that aren't related to its moveset will probably change its ranking by much. Gauchi actually gets Sludge Bomb. This is an interesting one too. Again, I don't think it's like particularly great, but it does give it some additional coverage for Azumarill. It still loses Azumarill, is a problem. So, you know, I think it's interesting, but there's just better options. Its typing and coverage is definitely on the more unique end. I think it's better than Swallow for sure, and Togekiss. We got Roserade getting Poison Sting, but it's still 196. Could be good in some limited cups, but I don't think it'll be good in Open Great League by any means. It's so frail. Ferd also gets Trailblaze, and that does not really change my thoughts on this, to be honest. Lanoon also gets Trailblaze. It already had a grass move before, so that's not really that big of a difference. Wait, what's rank 31? Lanoon? Lanoon's 70, which is kind of wild to me. I don't think that's fully accurate. But wait, don't tell me Fur is actually that high. 31? How? Like, I know what these moves do. I know what Swift Trailblade does. They're not changes. They just added to it. Okay, what is it beating? Jellicent, okay. Feraligatr, okay. Azumarill, Diggersby, Lapras. I mean, just a bunch of water types. You know what this is? It's because these other Pokemon rank so high, they're going to push up things that beat it a lot higher too. But the thing is, no one runs a Jellicent, Feraligatr, Azumarill team. No one's going to run these triple water teams. So, like, a Fur could only do so much, right? Fur's, meanwhile, going to be stuck on top of a Mandibuzz, and then what are you going to do, right? Just throw Resisted, Sucker Punch, and Swift? That is interesting, though. I might have been mistaken on that one. Yeah, these changes are wild. I might just make another follow-up video on this once it actually comes out, just to see how good everything is, and once I play like a few games of Go Battle League. But like, I find it hard to believe that it's going to be that good. Florges gets Trailblaze. Florges is definitely not great in Open Great League. All right, I'm just going to look this one up in case I missed this one. There's no way Florges is like top 40 something. It's 90 though. That is actually still a lot higher than I think it is. Florges is 90th in the rankings. Shadow Swampert with the new move Sludge, newly buffed Sludge, is 91. How is Florges better in rankings than Swampert, right? But again, if you look at the rankings, that's why, because the top part of the rankings is a lot of dark types. So anything that beats those dark types is instantly going to be inflated in its rankings. Mightyena, Bellybolt, and Bombirdier all get Sucker Punch. Again, I don't think Bombirdier is moving too much, so I'll just keep it there. Mightyena, 133 Shadow. It's actually not even that far from Swampert, but No, this thing's definitely bad. Belly Boat's an interesting one because it's like, I think pretty bulky, but it doesn't have any coverage moves. It's all electric. Yeah, this thing's kind of bad. So those are all the actual updates for Pokemon that got any like new moves added on. Let's look at the other stuff, and these are like certain things that might have learned moves and stuff, or just in general are currently meta or some type of meta, and I'll see how I place them. Azumarill is still going to be pretty top meta, I feel. Yeah, I lose to Lapras, but like Lapras is weak to fighting. Azumarill not. Lapras doesn't resist dark types. Azumarill does. I still think it's going to be really, really meta, honestly. And if I put it at top of the meta, I think I probably would. It's ranked 22 overall, but that's because there's like some poison stuff, but like it's really safe. It's really, really safe. I think you're going to still see it on like a ton of teams, especially if like some of these ground types pick up and stuff too, right? And also like Sableye, Malamar. What's going to beat these things? It's going to be Azumarill, you know? The rankings might not say it, but I think it's going to be Azumarill. Walrein did win a recent international, European international. I don't think I saw Podmon who won it actually use it in any of the battles, at least the ones I watched, but it was there. Again, I do think it's better than Piloswine and stuff, but I don't think it's like really good. Morpeko's an interesting one. It does beat a lot of things in the meta. It resists. It's like good into the Grumpig. It's really just got to worry about ground and fighting types. And it also just takes a lot of neutral damage from everything. I do think it's interesting. I wouldn't put it as super meta though. I'd probably put it as fringe meta because it's hard to run. It's hard to run, but I think it's really, really interesting though. And it has really good coverage. I do think the rankings are a little bit deceptive because it's really frail too, right? That's a 1 shield. What if you bait perfectly? Or what if like they play out the 2 shields? What if it's 0 shields? You can't operate this thing on 0 shields in most situations. Some of these grass types are just like, I'm not a huge fan of. I think this could be okay, but there's just better options than Whimsicott these days. Serperior, let's talk about another grass type. I think it's okay. Serperior could be pretty interesting. I think it's still a decent meta grass type. But Fable is just like the worst fairy type in my opinion. It doesn't like, it has interesting coverage, but not as good as Azumarill, and it doesn't have the resistances of Wigglytuff, right, for the ghost types. Galarian Moltres, it just can't take a dynamic punch from a Grumpig, I feel like, as well. I think Moltres is interesting. Medicham! Oh my gosh, Medicham makes a comeback. Is it a big comeback? Hard to say. It is interesting though. But if you run Psycho Cut, Dynamic Punch, and Ice Punch, you have 55 in the rankings. I feel like you kind of need Psychic though for the Annihilate matchup. So, but you have options. Dynamic Punch being cheaper is interesting for sure. I think it's still going to be a little bit on the more fringe side, but I think it's going to be interesting. Cresselia has just been something that's been around the meta for a while. I feel like it's already kind of fallen out of favor in this past season, and it's just like looking worse and worse in that regard. It's a good Pokemon. Like, don't mistake that. It is a good Pokemon. It just, I feel like, hard to use. Actually, no, I should put some more respect on Cresselia. It has it has good coverage to the Azumarill. You do get hit by the Shadow Ball from the Grumpig though. There's just a lot of things that's going to beat it, but I think it's still really, really solid. There's a lot of ghosts, but the thing is like, there's only so many ghosts on one team, right? There are a lot of ghost options and dark options, but how many realistic are you going to see on one team? So that's what makes it a little better in my opinion, you know? Grumpig is a good example of that too, right? Grumpig is a Psychic type. There's a lot of ghosts and dark types, but you're only going to really run into 1 or 2. Golisopod. Okay, Golisopod has Aqua Jets. And Aqua Jet got a sizable buff. So I actually think this could be an interesting one for sure. It goes all the way up to 46. Beats Feraligatr barely. It could beat Lapras. It could be Annihilate. I don't know. I think this was kind of fringe. What's putting it up in the rankings really a lot is because it beats like Lapras, which is really high up in the rankings. It beats Feraligatr, which is high up in the rankings. Clodsire. But the thing is like it's barely beating it. And this is Clodsire running Sludge Bomb. If you're in Stone Edge, it's like kind of game over, right? It's interesting, but it's way too frail. Olga, Discharge, and Acrobatics got buffed. I don't think it's actually particularly good because again, there's just better options. But I think it could have some effect. Yeah, it does bump all the way itself up to 33 in the rankings. You know what? I won't fully count it out. Morpeko just has like better typing, I feel like, outside, you know. But these are just some old electric types that from past seasons have been okay, but have been pretty bad these days. I don't think it's really good. There's just so much better electric types these days, and it just doesn't you know. They're both taking super effective from counter damage, but like this doesn't even resist dark types, right? Whereas this resists dark damage. this resists fighting damage, right? So there's like benefits of these, whereas this just doesn't really have any upswings to it compared to the other electrics. Alolan Sandslash didn't really get touched this season, or this upcoming season. I think it's still interesting. It's like one of the more reliable steel types. It's probably the best steel type we have, unfortunately. And yes, the Grumpig has Dynamic Punch, but it still has to get to it, and you resist all the side wave damage. I think it's still going to be pretty good. Dunsparce. This got rollouts and rollout nerfed, I should say. So it's not going to be as good. It's definitely got to be worse than these two random, weirdos up there. I just think people are going to default to other ground types, right? Speaking of underground types, Diggersby. Diggersby is still like really, really good in my opinion. So I still put it up here. Like it beats a lot of the dark types. Like Mana Blizzard just beats because of the Fire Punch buff. Quagsire is a ground type that we've seen a decent amount of. It's okay. I actually think it's actually not too bad. It didn't really get changed in any way, but I think it's not too bad. I put it here. Because I don't think every team needs a Quagsire, but it's definitely the best. I think it's easily one of the best water ground types you have. Gastrodon, I don't love as much. Let's take a look at Gastrodon. It is ranked number 19. I mean, I guess because there's more playing to Lapras. I don't like it as much, though. I don't know. Maybe that's just my opinion. I think I should put some respect on it, though, because it is good into Drapion. But, like, at that point, why don't you just run Marowak? Marowak's just, like, the better ground type. I think I'm going to put it at the bottom here. Okay, so here's my rationale. If you want a Mud Slapper that's a ground type, you just run Marowak. Neither are going to beat grass types, right? You're not really going to reliably beat, like, Talonflame with this either, especially with Earth Power, right? So even though you resist the fire damage, they just hit you with flying damage. Whereas, Kanto Marowak can still at least throw a Rock Slide to one-shot. Dash Bunt's a weird one. I don't know. It's like a Charmer that's... It's like definitely fringe meta. It's like ranked high, but I think the rankings are kind of deceptive. There's a reason why people haven't seen them, right? Corviknight. It is currently ranked much higher than I think it should be in current Great League, and it's 16 overall. I don't know. Corviknight's a good example of like something that's ranked high that just still doesn't feel great. But Grumpig, no, it's not. Grumpig's not the problem though. We had Malamar before, and Corviknight still wasn't that good. It is unique in its typing. Like there's Skarmory, and no one's really using it. So like, if you need a Steel Flying type, it's probably your best bet. Clodsire, another ground type. It's ranked really high. I do think it's pretty good. I'll put it right here. I feel like there's too many things that beat it. It's still ranked really high and really good, but I don't know if I'd actually like say it's top tier meta. Grumpig is always a weird one. It's always ranked much higher than I think it is because it's like never actually that good. It's ranked 30. It's not a 30 ranked Pokemon. You would never bring this to a tournament either, but even in GBL, you rarely see this. Like it's actually solid in GBL. I will give it that. I'll put it here for now. Speaking of rock types too, this thing is actually straight garbage these days. It's just bad. It's not like unusable, but just not good. I think Chargebug's actually pretty underrated even right now. Obviously, second place at European International did have a Chargebug on the team, but I think people are kind of picking up on how like it's actually pretty solid. Pacing's just a little bit slower though compared to Morpeko and stuff. And if you get hit by one Aura Sphere, Dark Aura Sphere, it's probably like most of your health, and you just get Thunder Shock down. I think it's interesting though. I just don't think it's as good as the other electric types. This is not going to be great. I'll put it there for now. Something else that reminds me of that a bit is... Well, Togedemaru, I don't even know why. It's really high in the rankings all the time for some reason. I think it's just because the bait aspect to it, it's actually not, like, good. You just run Morpeko at that point. Like, they're both weak to fighting. Aurora's kind of a weird one, too. Always high in the rankings. I don't think it's, like, that good. It's a little bit too frail compared to Bastion, but it has good coverage. Malamar's an interesting one. I think Malamar is actually, like, still pretty solid. It's been solid, but I think it, like, is... I mean, it's really good into Grumpig. And Foul is getting buffed. That makes it really interesting because then you can start like throwing moves much faster, and it's already super spammy. Wigglytuff is an interesting one. I think there's a lot of dark types and it's pretty solid. It just wins a lot of neutrals, and there's a lot of ghost types too. I think it's really good meta-wise. These are just like an old grass type that we used to have. If you're like, why is Venusaur much worse than Superior? Superior's just bulkier, and it doesn't take neutral from ground types, Mud Slappers, all that stuff. So, and yeah, it has something to hit back Drapion with, whereas this doesn't. Primeape is interesting. I think Primeape is still pretty meta. It's no Annihilate, but it has a lot of play. I mean, Again, it got second place at the European International. Put it here. I think Clodsire and Primeape are interchangeable in some ways, shape, and form. Annihilape is the other more popular fighter these days. I think it's actually ranked lower. Yeah, it actually is ranked lower. But I do think it's actually much better in the sense that it wins a head-to-head. You have the counter damage for Lapras and stuff. I don't know. It's a little bit more reliable in some ways. I'll put it like right here. Jump Off got a slight buff in the sense that Acrobatics just got cheaper, but I think you probably still run Aerial Ace most of the time. I think it's good. You don't take super effective fast attack damage from Lapras at least. I still think it's still a really, really good flying type Pokemon. I'll put it S tier. I think it's still like arguably the best flying type Pokemon. But yeah. Speaking of high stat product, we got Toxapex. It's okay. I mean, it's the one thing that walls off Azumarill, right? In this meta. It's just like not very like strong. I don't know. It is unique in what it does. I will give it that. But Grumpig getting that side wave is pretty annoying. Like, it loses a lot of things as well at the same time, right? I'll put it here. I think these two can change a bit. Either way, the Cresselia and the Toxapex, but I think overall it's not too bad. Registeel. I feel like it's just pacing just too slow. It's like okay, but it's just like it just get outpaced by so many things these days. It's just hard to use, I feel like right now. Its ranking might not even be that bad. Wow, its ranking is actually pretty bad. 84? 84 is nuts for Registeel to be at. Because you know what's at 90? Florges. Great League Florges is at 90. Great League Registeel is at 84. This used to be like... you know how crazy this glow down is? I'm talking about the glow up of freaking Grumpig. Glow down time. Registeel, I remember at its peak, like a few seasons ago, maybe a year or two ago, it was like 1 or 2 in the rankings overall. That's crazy of a drop off. And the thing is, they didn't really touch anything. They didn't touch like Focus Blast, Lock On, or Zap Cannon this season. Or Flash Cannon, for that matter. That's wild. Another Dynamic Punch user I'm curious about is Poliwrath. It did drop quite a bit in rankings. Although it doesn't even have Poliwrath or Dynamic Punch listed on it. I just don't think it's that good. It does like resist everything from the Feraligatr, but I don't know. Jellicent's an interesting one because Hex is getting a buff. It is ranked pretty high too because it does wall off the Lapras' charge attacks. 17 is pretty high. I don't know if it's actually like going to be that good. I mean, it's decent into the Annihilape, I guess, too, right? And you have Play into the Diggersby. It's kind of a weird one because they're like both throwing resist attacks. It's Play into Azumarill too. I don't know. I think this could be interesting. My guess is like somewhere around this Toxapex Cresselia range. It's not as bulky as the other two though, but other ghost types as well. Drifblim is definitely moving down a bit. It has Hex on PV Poke, but I feel like if it's about the same as Astonish, I don't think Hex is gonna be better than Astonish. You probably just run Astonish on it, so it's okay. It was good when there's a lot more Clodsire, I think, especially Clodsire Safe Swap, but it's like it just requires too many shields, in my opinion. Dusclops, Hex buff, which is pretty nice. For Dusclops, it is ranked really high right now. It's ranked at 8th overall. The difference here between the other Hex users is that it's really bulky. It might be similar bulk to Jellicent. I'm not sure though. It is an interesting one for sure. I mean, you have Sucker Punch, Hex. It doesn't have the same resistances as Jellicent has. I need to see its matchup versus Azumarill. Okay, it beats Azumarill. Never mind. This thing's good. Okay, is it super meta? It might be. No, I wouldn't go that far yet. Let's put it here, right? What does it beat? Clodsire, Annihilape, Toxapex, Corviknight, Azumarill. But loses Mandibuzz, loses Feraligatr, loses Lapras, loses a Diggersby. You know, so like loses Shao Drapion. So it's like kind of unreliable. It like beats half of it and then just like loses the other half. Golurk did get a Dynamic Punch buff. It does have Mud Slap as well. Is this the better option over Shadow Marowak? I don't know. The problem with this is it's taking super effective damage from Feraligatr Shadow Claw. And there's a lot of Shadow Claw users, a lot of Hex users these days, Astonish, all that stuff. So I'm a little skeptical. I think it's better than a nerfed Dunsparce. Other grass types, Abomasnow is interesting. Rollout did get nerfed, but I feel like everything else is still pretty relevant. I don't know. Abomasnow could be interesting, honestly. It has interesting coverage for sure, right? You could hit back against the Credilli. Well, Credilli can hit back against it, actually, I guess is what I should be saying. Yes, Golurk did beat the hot garbage allegations, and it beat it again. You know who beat the hot garbage allegations? Once and for all? Freaking Claydol. Like, I know it wasn't hot garbage like the last time I did a tier list either with it, but, like, it's actually good. I can't believe I'm saying this. You know how long like it's been since like I've constantly pooped on Claydol in these tier lists? Well, it finally had its glow up moment. Claydol is now, so this past season, Claydol was 317th with even Mudslap, you know, being better these days. It jumped up over 300 spots to 15 overall on the predictions, at least for PvPoke. 15th overall. I mean, Rock Tomb got buffed, Scorching Sands got buffed like a little bit ago, Mudslap, and it's still got the full Swiss Army knife of Ice Beam, Shadow Ball, Psychic, Earthquake, Gyro Ball. Like, so it still has all those other options if you'd like to see it. I am very curious about this one for sure. What does it beat? Well, it beats obviously Electrix and Morpeko. Beats Clodsire, Drapion. Being Drapion's nice because it has Aqua Tail and Crunch, but you still could farm it down. It beats a Nihilape. That's interesting. Well, I mean, I guess you're resisting the counter damage. You lose a Primeape though. You use it for Alligator. You use Lapras. You could beat Azumarill? How? That's nuts. How does a ground Psychic type beat Azumarill? Like your Azumarill throwing super effective fast attacks and charge attacks. Meanwhile, you're throwing only neutral moves. So it only happens in the 1 shield, and the 2 shield is actually a tie, which is even crazier. I don't even know how it's happening. You just go straight Rock Tomb. You just go straight Rock Tomb and you win the 1s and you tie on the 2s against Azumarill. What? That's crazy. That's actually nuts. I would think Azumarill would be a counter to it. Yo, that is actually insane. I think this is S tier. You could, because what is it losing to? Lapras? Okay, but you have Rock Tomb for it, right? You have Rock Tomb for Lapras. Against Feraligatr, you lose to it, but I'm pretty sure if you just 2 shield through it, you can Mudslap him down, right? No, you can't. Yeah, it gets close, but yeah, not quite. But you can debuff, and if you're ever up 1 shield over them, 1 to 2 shields, or 2 to 1 shields, or 1 to 0 shields, you still win that. Yeah, I mean, who cares if you lose to Diggers via Mana Buzz, right? Like, that's to be expected. That's actually kind of nuts. I think that's an S tier Mudslapper for sure. Claydol, yeah, Claydol the GOAT, which is never thought I'd say in my life, but here we are. Here we are. Umbreon, I mean, Foul Play got slightly adjusted. I don't think it's like particularly amazing. It's just really bulky, right? It's got good stat product. None of its moves were really nerfed in the past. It just other things kind of just came around it. Oh wait, PvPoke actually still has this as Dark Pulse. So that's probably why its actually ranking is actually not even that high. It's 130. But if Foul Play is indeed a buff, I think this actually could be interesting for sure. I'd say it's fringe meta. Unova Stunfisk, it's okay. It's definitely, I'm not even going to talk about the Glaring Stunfisk because it's like so irrelevant at this point. It's not even worth being on tier list. It's ranked 32 as in the predictions for next season, which is pretty high. You could take out Feraligatr because you could just tank a Hydro Cannon, I guess. I think that's an appropriate spot. Other ground types, we got Whiscash, which also is just like not as good as it used to be. It's not bad. It's just like you might as well just run Quagsire at that point, right? Donphan was pretty decent this season in some aspects, not like fully, but it's not bad. I just don't think it's going to be as good as Claydol. Claydol's just like way bulkier too. Kanto Marowak, the more popular Mudslapper of this season, and it is actually ranked below Claydol. But you know why? Both have the same fast attack. Both have ground coverage moves, Scorching Sand versus Bone Club, and then both have rock moves, Rock Slide versus Rock Tomb. What's better? Scorching Sand is a better energy efficient move for sure over Bone Club, I think. I don't know, they're probably similar. But it has a chance for debuff on Scorching Sand, and Rock Tomb, guaranteed debuff. Rock Slide, none of that. So I think it's actually worse than Claydol at the moment. Goodra, some of these weird ones. I just have this on there because it's from like a previous tier list. I was just like trying to see how it falls, but I don't think it's like particularly good. Ridgebacks, kind of similar story. Miltank's an interesting one because it also got nerfed. It wasn't that good to begin with. I think it's definitely better than a Licky for sure. Alolan Marowak. It got second at an international. It actually wasn't too bad. Most of the time, if you're running a fire type, you run a different fire type. It's hard to use. I don't think it's like impossible. Drapion has probably dropped a bit in rankings because all these Mudslappers are up and around. But I think it's really good because you're going to have at most 1 Mudslapper on a team, right? For the most part. GBL maybe 2 if you're going ABB. In a tournament, definitely just 1. It's super safe. And you got Grumpig, right? Which like you're going to do better into that too. I think it's really, really good. Better than a Azumarill? Yeah, I'd say so. It's way safer than Azumarill. Obviously sounds bulky, but it's actually way safer, which is what makes it good. Greninja, kind of a fringe pick. Mandibuzz, gonna be really good. It's top of the rankings, but I think it's really strong in general. I don't think it's as safe as Azumarill. I don't know. I'm trying to think. What's beating Manabuzz? Azumarill and like occasional ice, one fairy. It's pretty good, I feel like. The rollouters aren't around anymore, right? Like when Dunsparce's around, it made it more annoying. But I think it's actually really safe right now. Fortress, my buddy in Co-Caster Speed is Chief. You know, he was hyped about the Rock Tomb buff. This is also something that's got a lot of buffs over time, but just never really did it much with it. I don't think it's that good, unfortunately. Still, it's ranked worse than a Florges. Talonflame's interesting. I still think Talonflame's like probably one of the best fire types besides Typhlosion. Galarian Corsola, man, this thing is nasty still. I think it's actually disgusting how strong this thing is. Let's see how it ranks in the new season with Nightshade nerf. 6th overall. That's crazy. It's still 6th overall. It still has win cons against Manabuzz because they didn't nerf Power Gem. It was just Nightshade that was nerfed. This thing is kind of nutty. Still beats Azumarill, beats Dusclops. Like, why run Dusclops when you're running Galarian Corsola, right? Skeldurge, also pretty fringe. Not that they never nerfed Skeldurge in the past few seasons. It's just a lot of his targets were kind of gone. Pangoru, it's okay. A few appearances in the tournaments. Kind of hard to have one in general. I think it's probably around here. Steelix, I don't know about Steelix. Steelix in Great League is like kind of frail and like no one's really been able to make it work. It is ranked 28th overall, which is kind of interesting. For Alligator, still gonna be really, really strong in my opinion. There's nothing really slowing this thing down. What got buffed that can slow down for Alligator? Claydol loses to it in all evens, right? What else? There's some electric types like Amoga on Discharge, but how much Amoga are you really gonna see? What else in this list that got buffed? Credilli. That's about it, right? I think overall it's still really, really strong. Zapdos made a slight appearance here or there in recent tournaments. I don't like it though. I think it's like a worse Amoga. Wait, it doesn't even have Discharge. It's a worse Amoga. It's a more frail Amoga even. Dugong could be pretty good. I think Dugong's still really, really strong overall. But it has to contend with Lapras now. Actually, I'm curious. Does Lapras beat it with all resisted charge attacks? Something must be up here. I feel like Lapras beats it. Otherwise, Lapras wouldn't be ranked so high. How does Lapras beat this when Dugong has neutral moves and you're throwing resisted moves the whole time? It's just because the Psywave damage is a lot, I guess. That's crazy. That's actually insane. Okay, well, look. If it wasn't for Lapras, this thing would be ranked a lot higher. I'm going to put it here. Umbreon's at least more unique in its coverage. Like, there's no other dark type that's throwing dark normal, right? That's pure dark. There's, like, obviously things that throw dark moves, but it's, like, very unique in its role and its typing. Dugong, though, its role has been completely replaced by Lapras. So, in what world do you ever run Dugong over Lapras? And then, the very last Pokemon we have, I know I'm missing Typhlosion, so I'll add it for the next one, is Galarian Weezing. 21 on the Shadow, which I don't have one, so I really need Niantic to bring that back. Non-Shadow Galarian Weezing's 57. What does it beat? Beats for Alligator, which is pretty interesting. Shadow for Alligator. Manabuzz. Manabuzz without even running Play Rough, which is wild. Beats Azumarill with Sludge, obviously. Primeape and Annihilape. That's actually pretty good. Obviously, it loses the poison types or whatever, but that's actually a really interesting Pokemon. I think Azumarill still goes reign supreme as the premier fairy type, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot of this. That's going to do it for my tier list. This is, again, the pre-patch Great League tier list for the new season of Might and Mastery that goes live sometime next week. So I will make another tier list, and my next tier list will probably just be a readjustment of this one. I'll just look at all this stuff and see like what I should have changed and moved around. Check your Grumpig IVs, Spoink IVs. Get that Claydol ready. Man, this was a glow up. This was a long-term glow up in the making, but also a big glow up for Claydol. Thank you all for joining, and have a great global Unova Tour weekend. And until next time, I'll catch you all later. Peace.